Hey guys, how the hell are you? Today we are going to do another unbiased gear review. This time on the new Plini plugin from Neural DSP. So for the purposes of the demo song and also for testing this plugin, I've decided to use the frameless television that I own for its vintage vibes, and also because it has a nice kind of jangly clean tone to it. So yeah, let's get right on into it. Okay, so in the interest of expediency, I'm not going to go super duper in depth with what every single knob does and all the nooks and crannies of this plugin. I'm just going to kind of give a brief overview, maybe show you guys a few of the presets, maybe show you guys some of the presets that I came up with for the demo song that I did for this video, but just kind of give you a basic understanding of what we are looking at here. For those of you guys that may have used a Neural DSP plugin before, like maybe the Fortin Nameless Suite or the Dark Glass plugin, you guys might be familiar with kind of the layout here. We've got input, gate, stereo and mono mode, oversampling, preset, save, the list of the various presets that we have here. Output, what to do with the presets. We've also got a nice little interface up here that kind of goes between this to start off with, that has a compressor pedal and an overdrive. three different amps. Now, most of you guys are probably familiar with a bunch of other neural DSP plugins having only really one amp on tap, which some guys would probably be like, well, dude, why am I paying so much for a plugin that only has one amp on it? Well, it's because from neural DSP, you're usually getting probably the best representation of that amp or anything close to it. Now, in this case, though, we do have three amps that were all designed from the ground up in collaboration with Plini. And we have here, they're kind of demarcated by phases of the moon. So like this new moon is like a clean amp. It's very, very jangly. These are just with the knobs all the way up. Let's flick on the bright switch. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. The kind of crescent moon is more of like a crunch tone, slightly vintage. Here it sounds a little bit subdued, but that's because we haven't messed with any of the knobs or controls or anything, but we'll get to that. Then over here, kind of the full moon is what they consider the Plini high gain, heavy gain sound. Pretty cool. It's not something super metal oriented at this point. It's a lot more kind of a vintagey kind of tone, a little bit Mesa, a little bit PV in there too. But something that is has yet to be played with as far as what we're going to do today to show you what this is capable of. Moving on from the amps, though, after this we have a 9-band EQ, and this changes depending on which amp you're using. There's the clean one, there's the crunch one, and there's the heavy one. And the frequencies are all the same on each and every one of them, but you can just play around with this and see how responsive they are. Like, just to give a brief check on this right here, let's do 2K. That's without messing with it at all. Crank it all the way up. Wow, a lot of 2 kilohertz in there. And then take it all the way out. And that is gone. Freaking gone. So as you can see, super responsive with each of these slider controls. How about 250? So yeah, very responsive depending on how far up and down you want to move these things. Or if you just want to bypass this in general, you can just flick it off right there. Moving on from the graphic EQ, we go over here to the speaker cabinet, which this should look familiar to anyone that's used a neural DSP plugin up to this point. Several different mics that you can choose from. It's already got one of my faves here, the Dynamic 57, of course modeled after a particularly well-known, well-regarded microphone. Let's move that up front to where I like it. Let's also not have on the second mic for right now, just so that you can see. So yeah, as you can see, kind of very responsive as far as where we move it to. A few different mic tones on here. We're on the 57 right now. The 906. And then, of course, you can blend with the other mic that's on the opposite side. So you can further shape your tone using the cab sim on here. You can also upload your own custom IRs too. You don't exactly have to use the mics that are on tap, but my opinion, the mics that are on tap are pretty damn good. And then finally over here, we've also got a delay and reverb pedal. As you can probably hear, that reverb pedal is on. Let's switch that off. So one thing I will tell you that I loved right away with this plugin is the fact that it does have an onboard delay and reverb, and the fact that they are super duper responsive. Let's click on the delay so I can show you a little bit what I mean here. Kick on the reverb. Pretty easy to shape a pretty cool lead tone with that. If you want to dial it back too, you can always just bring the dry wet signal down just a little bit. Let's see. Very, very nice. I realized we didn't even check out the pedals at the other end. So this is at the complete end of the signal chain, the delay and the reverb, but at the front of the signal chain, there's also a really cool compressor and overdrive that also are extremely, extremely responsive. Let's check out the compressor first. Let me first of all remove the delay and reverb, but let's check out that compressor. Very useful for just kind of fattening things up a little bit. Let's check out that overdrive now. Actually, what would be even better, let me switch over to the clean sound so that you can really get a feel for what this thing does. So that's with all the knobs at noon. pretty cool. It's very, very transparent, which is something I really like. Just being able to get a lot of note clarity, even when using an overdrive, is something that I really, really enjoy. Okay, so we've kind of played around a little bit here. Let's actually show you guys some presets. So first of all, let me show you some presets that come directly from the factory here. We've got like this Jazz Clean. They call it Sunhead. I'm going to assume that that's probably a Plini song title. Let's try, there was a kind of a sparkly clean, Electric Sunrise. So as you can hear, not only do the presets make adjustments to the settings on the amp, but it also dictates which pedals are in play, what tones are on the pedals, if it's using the graphic equalizer. In this case, it's boosting those kind of super the super high trebles there. It also dictates which mics are being used, etc. Yeah. Nice little clam right there. Alright, moving on to some of the crunch tones. Let's go Electric Sunrise Crunch. Hardly any EQ has been messed with on the amp. We've got the overdrive kicking on. Not really anything at all has been done here. Ribbon microphones there. Let's try another one. Let's try a solo one, because a lot of the solo ones I've noticed use the crunch channel. Very, very cool. Very smooth tone right there. Let's get into the heavy shit. Some pretty extreme gating there, if I do say so myself. So let's do one of my presets. Black Gaze 1. So at this point, I need to kind of mention one of the things that I thought was really, really kind of funny and hilarious about this plugin. When I think of Plini, like when I listen to his music, the emotion, the feeling that I get is a little bit happier. You know, it's something that I wouldn't say it's whimsical. It's not like Steve Vai where it's just kind of happy-go-lucky, but it's more of just kind of beautiful, for lack of a better description. You know, like everything is just a-okay, everything's going to be fine because you're listening to this music. And that's the vibe that I get from him a lot of the time. It's not necessarily a bad thing at all. You know, I'm definitely not knocking the guy. More power to him. I do listen to him from time to time. But it's not necessarily what I'm usually going for myself. What is funny to me is that this plugin, it turns out, is really, really, really good for stuff like black metal and like super depressive and brutal stuff, which I thought was extremely, extremely hilarious. Like, you use his high gain amp that he's got on here. You've got a little bit of overdrive on there, just kind of pushing it ever so slightly. And then also throwing on the reverb on there too. And man, you get some gnarly, cultish kind of tones on there, which I think is fucking hilarious. Very, very cool. I find this plugin to be extremely, extremely useful, extremely inspiring. I was actually really, really surprised. Like, I was kind of going into this thinking this is probably not going to be my bag at all, but instantaneously I started doing like all that super grim, true black metal stuff. And I think that this is probably the best plugin I've ever played for something like that. I mean, it just oozes that right kind of mojo when you've got the high gain amp on and the overdrive pushing it just a little bit more, and of course a wash in reverb. It's great for that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, all the other tones are really, really good too. I've got some other cool presets on here that I made just to kind of blend with that tone. That tends to work really, really well with the higher gain tone that I had before. Let's see. Also, this one is called Melody FX, and it's mostly just straight up in terms of all the EQ, but I just had a certain effects setting on there. You know, it's just something that is not necessarily usually my cup of tea, but man, was it so fun to play around with that. So yeah, the Plini Archetype by Neural DSP. I seem to really, really like this plugin a lot more than I thought I would. So, I mean, I definitely think it's worth at least checking out. A lot more vintage inspired, a lot less modern high gain tone on tap here than we're used to seeing from Neural DSP. But wow, was this very, very inspiring to play on. So you might be asking, Arnold, what are you drinking today? I am so glad you asked. Today, I am going to have from the Lost Abbey, one of my favorite breweries. I'm having their track number 8, which is an ale brewed with raisins, aged in bourbon barrels with cinnamon and chilies. It has an alcohol by volume of 13.7%, so it's pretty heavyweight. Let's see. Satisfying cork pop. Pours kind of a dark, muddy, reddish brown. Definitely a lot of raisins and other dark fruits in the aroma. Bit of apricot too. It is a little spicy, but I honestly I thought that it was going to be even spicier than this. This is a little bit more palatable, which is a-okay in my book. Despite the fact that it's got a high ABV, I think if anything that's probably what's contributing to the spiciness a little bit more. It just has a little bit of a bite to it, and you can definitely tell it's an alcohol bite, not necessarily like a chili pepper kind of tang or anything like that. The cinnamon, I'll be honest, I can't even taste it. I just taste something that is very, very rich in dark fruits, a little bit of bread in there. Yeah, very, very heavyweight all the same, but man, is that delicious. So that's all I've got. Leave your comment in the comment section below. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. There's a lot more content to come. And please find me on all other forms of social media, Facebook, Instagram. I'm kind of all over the place these days. Thank you.